Hey everybody, how you doing again? This is AZ High Desert, bringing you another how-to video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to convert an original M1 Carbine stock to fit your Ruger 1022. Alright, so per Eric and Chad's recommendations, we're in a ventilated area. I've got a door open in this back room and the window open, and it's definitely blowing the air around here good. So we've got some extremely hot water here. Kind of a dirty rag already, but whatever. We're going to drape it over the stock. You go real easy on this. Not pressing too hard. I'll go back a few times. It's been a while since I've done this, so just want to get into it kind of easy. Alright. I want to continuously keep it wet. What I like to do is just kind of go 1 to 2 inches at a time. Get a really nice coverage going. Okay, so we're doing good. As you can see, the finish is starting to come off pretty well compared to the rest of it. We did some pretty good work last night steaming the stock out. However, there's still a couple of dark areas that have some oil and finish remaining. As you can see over here, it's really nice, but you know, in the back, some areas and a couple of the hard to get areas. So I'm going to go over that one more time, and then we're going to go ahead and get to milling out the inside for the Ruger 1022. Okay, so now we've got the stock completely stripped. The steaming did a really nice job of getting out all the old finish and oils that were in the wood. Got a really nice grain pattern coming out. And before I finish the entire thing, stain it, maybe put a little bit of true oil on it, I'm going to go ahead and inlet it to Ruger 1022 specs. Now, as you can tell on the original Ruger 1022 stock, it's much more wide open, especially here in the back, whereas the M1 Carbine is a little bit more restricted. So what we're going to need to do is take the Dremel, and we're going to inlet and basically take out some more of that material so that the receiver can fit down very nicely into it. Okay, it's about 7:15 in the morning. I've been working on this just about all night doing the inletting on the stock, and I finally got it to fit in perfectly just the way I wanted. So here's what she looks like. Hope you guys can see that okay. However, I did find one substantial problem, and that's specifically with the 1022 Collector's Edition. And that's that the Picatinny rail here extends about an inch beyond where the receiver does. So when I tried to take the handguard and fit it up, it wouldn't go all the way back. As you can see, it needs about another inch. So probably what I'm going to have to do is either find another rail to work with, or I can take it to a machine shop. I can have them cut this off perfectly at the receiver so it looks fairly normal, and then get this to come all the way back like it's supposed to. Alright guys, so I thought about it for a while, and I think instead of going to a machine shop and having them machine off the factory Picatinny rail that came with the 1022, I think instead what I'm going to do is go ahead and mill out some of this wood around the center. Now, as you can see here, there are a couple of rivet holes, and it's got this metal tab here that fits over the top of the M1 Carbine. What I'm thinking is that if I mill out this area right here and leave the rivets, leave the tab underneath, what I can do is I can take the rail off, and then I can slide the tab underneath the Picatinny rail, and it should give me just enough clearance to where it's actually going to lock the top handguard in place. Alright guys, so after several hours of tediously milling out the top handguard there to fit in with the Picatinny rail, what I ended up doing was drilling out the rivets on the clip and just tossing it. Basically the way the clip was shaped, it didn't want to slide underneath the Picatinny rail the way I wanted it to, and it was just causing havoc, so I just kind of did away with it. This is a rough mock-up of what it's going to look like when it's finished. Of course, I've got some glass bedding to do and some final finishing touches, but overall, I mean, this is what it's going to look like. One really cool benefit that I found is that the top handguard right here slides over the end of the Picatinny rail, so it's not just exposed. You know, lines up really nicely. It's kind of streamlined that way. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the glass bedding portion of this video. Today, as you can see, we're not going to be using actual glass bedding such as Acra glass or anything like that. I'm going to be using JB Weld. I don't care what you think. Nope, still don't care. Alright, so I've got the stock here taped up. Very simple. Making sure that everything on the outside is covered. I've also done just about the same with the receiver. And for a couple of reasons. You've got a lot of pins on the Ruger 1022. You want to make sure they don't come out. You want to make sure that none of the glass gets inside. Okay, so now we're moving on to covering the metal with kiwi shoe polish in a neutral color. I've got a couple of different brushes. A smaller one for the crevices and a large one for broad strokes. Alright, I'm going to get the small metal parts first. Also, I want to mention that before I put these on, I went ahead and dusted everything so all the particles are off of the receiver and out of the wood. I want to make sure we get all the crevices real good. Okay, gotta hurry up because at this point we've only got 5 minutes. Alright, so currently we're at about 22 minutes. I've been holding the receiver steady, and after about 10 minutes it didn't slip or slide anymore. It's firmly mated to the back of the wood. Okay everybody, now that we've got a clean brake, I'm going to go ahead and mill off all of the excess material here. This stuff's a lot easier to mill out than wood, so make sure you're careful and don't go too far. Okay everyone, at this point we finished the glass bedding. I've taken the time to use first 100 grit sandpaper and then a finer 220 to finish the stock out. Had a couple of small imperfections. Usually I don't like sanding if I don't have to. I like clean sharp lines, but I think this is turning out really nicely. It's got a nice even look to it. Even though the stock isn't perfect, it's got some wood grain issues, but like I mentioned, this was about the best one that I could find from JG Sales. So here's what the glass bedding looks like finished. It's definitely not perfect. I wouldn't be satisfied if I had gotten this done professionally, but since it's just for my own personal project, I think this is going to do just fine. Locks the stock in there perfectly, doesn't shift around, it's completely straight on the top, and it's looking very nice. Alright, so when I started this, I bought about 5 or 6 different cans of stain and wanted to see which one would fit best with a wood grain. I think it's going to be this one right here. This is called Special Walnut. I'm going to go ahead and use it because it brings out the grain nicely. I also like the red mahogany here, but the problem is it's just far too dark, and this stock is already dark enough as it is. So I've picked the stain that I'm going to use. I've got my gloves on. Got my trusty hanger that likes to hang up on things. And I'm going to go ahead and get into this. Also going to be staining the top parts of where the glass bedding comes out. Hopefully it'll stick. If it doesn't, well, no big deal. Yeah, this is going to turn out very nicely. turning out very nicely already. The staining is finished. Here's what she looks like in pretty much her final configuration. I was able to match the top handguard to the bottom pretty effectively, and give you a close-up of what it looks like. I think it's got a very nice color, very nice hue to it. Now I'm going to take quadruple lot steel wool and buff out some of those minor imperfections, some of the stain that lays on top of the finished product here. You know, something I wanted to mention real quick is that the real difference between a nicely done stock and a stock that's been bubbed is that you take a lot of time on the small details. Like, for example, if you walk into a gun shop and you pick up a used firearm, you inspect it closely and you can tell immediately where corners have been cut. You know, areas like this right here are usually overlooked, and this is one of the things that I really pride myself on taking the extra time, because, you know, when my friends pick this stock up, when people pick this stock up, they're going to look over it carefully and they're going to say, hey, this is a job that's been really well done. And that's something I want to say about all my projects, and that's something I just felt I needed to mention. When you're doing something, at least for me, you know, I'm not telling anybody what to do, at least for me, when I'm doing something, I want to do it to the very best of my ability. I want to get all the details right. I want it to look like it came out of a professional gunsmith shop. Another small problem I encountered was removing the encrusted remains of the wax that I used as a break-free agent. So one of the things I'm using is mineral spirits. Just putting it on a paper towel and slowly rubbing all this crap off. When I'm done with the bulk of the residue, I'm going to go ahead and take some oil, take a nice bristle brush I've got here, and get the rest of this stuff off. Okay, so that definitely took me a little while to fix. I had to mill out a small little bit on the inside, but no big deal. As you can see, the top piece of the handguard isn't lining up completely. I need to mill out more here, and I also need to get a shortened stock screw. Alright, so over the last several days I've been finishing up the stock. I've gone ahead and filled in the extra areas that needed to be filled in on the bedding. I've also put on my first coat of True Oil and buffed it down with quadruple lot steel wool. It's looking very nice. I'm probably going to use 1 to 2 more coats, nothing too heavy. Originally, you know, I was just going to leave the stain on there, but I discovered that the stain can be stripped very easily with any kind of adhesive, so I'm going to decide to go ahead and do a True Oil finish on it. Okay, she's just about finished. There's one more thing I need to complete, and that's inserting either a small thin piece of metal or filling it in with wood. The stock has been coated with 3 coats of True Oil. Initially I didn't want to do that because I wanted to keep the military look, but I wasn't able to make that work. So what I did with the handguard up here is I took very thin strips of industrial strength Velcro and made sure it was on there nice and tight. The upper barrel band here, the stock ones have a ring around it so that on the M1 you can slide it over the barrel. I had to completely grind that off, and this is just sitting on top of the barrel with a small piece of electrical tape as a partition so it doesn't nick and mar up the barrel.